And let me say, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating. I'm still convinced that nonviolence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve, that in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me to be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity.
I played that clip for a particular reason. Martin Luther King was an influential man. Influential, and dare I say, misquoted and misinterpreted in his speeches. This one in particular, while he condemned violent protests, while he condemned rioting, at the same time, he also condemned the environment and the situations that caused peaceful individuals to turn violent. He condemned the laziness and the silence of white America. See, this situation, this has been a generational curse that has been happening before you and I were born, and so on and so forth. I'm almost going to be 30, and I can say that I grew up seeing the atrocities of the world. I have seen the moment the world was so shocked to realize that discrimination against fellow human beings was still a thing. When they saw a videotape of a man in LA getting beat down by 5 cops, and those cops were acquitted the very next day. But what those people didn't realize is that the citizens of LA, in their own way, were speaking to the American people to tell them that this is still going on. This is still a problem. Groups like the NWA, guys like Ice-T, individuals that lived in California, black people that lived in California, especially in the urban areas, especially in well-known areas, they spoke out about how this was still a problem, and no one bothered to listen to them. It took the death of a girl in a Korean supermarket and Rodney King being beat within an inch of his life, caught on tape, for people to realize that racial tension still exists. And then the riots occurred. Thousands of dollars of property damage. And you know what the narrative was? The violence. No one ever asked why. They just condemned it for violence. They didn't bring up why this even occurred, and the reasoning became lost amongst the fires in LA. We were warned plenty of times before George Floyd that this is still a problem. And all we got was detractors and individuals feigning ignorance of the problems that still resonate within our country. Trayvon Martin should have been a warning. Eric Garner should have been a warning. Sean Bell should have been a warning. Every black individual that died due to a police officer getting too big with his own power, taking advantage of a life and taking a life. We should have known then, and we should know now. But sadly, we are doomed to repeat our history. And even now, we are doomed to repeat history. Because the only difference is that people are now noticing. People are now noticing that there's something very wrong. People are now noticing that there is something not right. This country needs to be fixed. It should have been fixed, yet nothing has been done. Leaders that could have done something were snuffed, turned into martyrs, or forgotten in the annals of time. They only live on through brainy quotes that people like to misinterpret. George Floyd should be a reminder, just like everyone else, that you cannot stand here and tell me that all lives matter, when all I have to do is show you a mural of every black, male, female child who died at the hands of a police officer. Did their lives matter? Because apparently they didn't. Because that is someone's mother, that is someone's father, that is someone's son, that is someone's daughter that's on that mural. For the men and women that are protesting right now, who are standing their ground, who are trying to stop the violent individuals from turning this into something that defeats the purpose and gives these bigots a reason to silence us, to give our cowardly president a reason to call us animals and thugs. Thank you for trying your best and doing your best to stop these men and women and others from rioting and looting. For those that riot, I understand your pain. I know why. Because you have tried. You have tried to go about it peacefully, and nobody bothered to listen. You were unheard, and you feel that the only way for everyone to hear you is to set this country ablaze. And just like LA, just like Ferguson, just like all the others, America does not understand why you are rioting, and they condemn you. And while it is in their right to condemn you for destroying property, for rioting, for defeating the purpose, at the same time, shame on you, America. Shame on those who condemned those men for rioting, for not understanding why. Because some of you were those very same people that ignored their cries. You ignored their protests. And all you can either say was, all lives matter. All you can say was, you're un-American. All you can say is, why do you care about what these people think? You're not black. You're rich. Excuse after excuse after excuse. And you wonder why the black community is frustrated, why they're angry. Because we have tried to do things peacefully for you to listen, and you roll your eyes and you ignore the problem. You spend most of your time on social media denouncing individuals like Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, even George Floyd. You say horrible things about him. You have the nerve to call these men criminals as if they deserve their death. You are part of the problem. But yet again, through this act of cowardness, through these acts of hatred, through these acts of ignorance, through these acts of bigotry, through these acts of blind following, please do not lose the true goal. The true goal is for the American people, the government, to see that there is a problem and it needs to be addressed. We've been putting this off for over a generation. We've been putting this off since the 60s. We put this off on the assassination of Martin Luther King. We put this off when Malcolm X was assassinated. We put this off when Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. We put this off for too long. It needs to be addressed. There's a problem in this country. There is a ethnicity, a group of people treated differently because of the color of their skin. This is a human rights issue, and it's been going on for far too long, and it needs to be addressed because our president doesn't want to address it. Our president would much rather spend most of his time in a bunker tear gassing innocent people while complaining on Twitter and mocking and ridiculing the governors and the mayors of their respective state. He would rather call martial law on the American people than admit his shortcomings, not only as a president, but as a human being. A lot of us need to understand that we have failed as human beings. I just wanted to speak because this has been something I've been thinking about for quite some time. And it's a shame that it took this damn long for people to realize these three simple words. Black lives matter. They should have mattered then. And damn it, they should matter now.